And welcome to another episode of the Best of Three podcast. I'm Alvin. That's Pat Parr. And Pat, we had plans on talking about some other stuff today, but when one Sebastian Korda brings his Mark Philippoussis to the table and takes down Carlos Alcaraz first week of Miami Open, we then pivot just a bit. So we're going to talk about that.
All
But
right.
before we get into it, first and foremost, how are you doing, man?
Doing well. Doing well. I'm enjoying these Masters series. I mean, it's weird. There is definitely a difference between the Indian Wells vibe and the Miami vibe, even though they're so close to each other. It just
Yeah.
feels almost like not just two different tournaments, but two completely different mentalities. So, I I guess I enjoyed Indian Wells a lot, and I'm trying to work my way into the Miami tournament. But I do feel that for some of the players, there might be a sense of a letdown, that inevitable letdown that occurs. Like maybe something that it's not that the tournament is worse in any way. It's just that there's fatigue. I can only imagine playing that many matches. If you go late in Indian Wells and then you go over to Miami and you have to do it all over again, that must be tough. So
Y-
I'm
Yeah,
just enjoying, yeah, that.
it's interesting that you pull that out because I was thinking about this I guess particularly yesterday. So today is Sunday, men's third round ish. I think maybe I don't know what round was yesterday, if it was second round or the other half of the third round draw, but there were some matches that just didn't go the way you thought they were going to go. And I get this vibe from players, and I'm going to be on site tomorrow, so I'm excited about that.
So
Um,
cool.
yeah, I've got a nice little setup there. I'm going to be on grandstand during the day, stadium at night. Center's playing Mute, and I've got like 6 rows back in the corner court level. Yeah, I'm pretty pumped about it.
Yeah.
But this tournament is interesting because this is the end of the opening portion of the the early year hardcore swing,
Mm.
right? We often talk about the hardcore swing in the summer, but we are in a true hardcore swing right now. But it starts with a major and
Right.
ends with a 1,000. The women have played. This is their fourth 1,000 in a row, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's insane. That's insane. Yeah.
that's wild. Usually, it's like if we look at the clay court and you look at grass and you look at even summer hardcore swing, we're working up to the slam. Here we start with the slam,
That's
and then we
right.
just kind of like mad dash all over the place and try to pick up these points. But yeah, so it seems like okay, if you lose a little earlier than expected here, any player, right? It's like, let's go to Europe. We're going to play clay court now.
That's it.
It's
That's it, right? I feel like in the back of their mind, all those players, they lose early. They're like, okay, we'll take this as an advantage. Head over to Europe, pick up some points there. Uh, we should we talk about Corda and Alcaraz, or I mean,
Yeah, I'm gonna. You're the guest. I'm gonna cede the floor to you first, because I have some very concrete thoughts about not just this match, but what I've started to see as a trend. So,
oh,
but I'll cede the floor to you first. What
well,
was your
well,
take? What you?
yeah, I've been watching Corda for years. My God, and I what I saw out of him with Alcaraz was steadiness, and I think his coach Ryan Harrison, right? So Harrison,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, what he's done for Corda is just almost miraculous. I feel it's just I like he said in an interview something about stacking good days on top of each other.
I love
uh,
it. I
I
love
mean,
it.
I
Yeah,
thought that is such a good way because when I look at Corda and I watch him play, I think a lot about melancholy. I know that sounds a
say
bit
more.
odd,
No, continue.
but
Continue. Give it to me.
he's got that uh Raphaelian type look when he like almost like a Greek hero when he's suffering out there. He has this maybe it's the hairstyle or something, but
I see what you mean.
he has this vibe of just like suffering on a level that's very dramatic to me, but it's not too overstated, right? And
Okay.
when I was watching him with Alcaraz, of course I could tell in that one service game in the second set, I thought, wow, he's thinking about the outcome. He's thinking
Yeah.
about this. This is about to happen. I'm not only about to beat Alcaraz in straights. You know, I'm beating him in Miami, where I'm supposed to be supported, even though the crowd wanted more tennis at that point, and then turned
Yep.
on him a bit. But the magnitude of the moment came up, and then he had a hiccup, which I think is inevitable. But God, when he hits the ball, it's pure. It's so pure. And Korda was hitting the ball so deep into Alcaraz's off of his serve. I thought
Yep.
he had a game plan that I thought worked really well. Hard to emulate for other players, I think, but that was my
Very much so.
initial thoughts on it. But
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, Sebastian, I've been out on him, as of late, probably over the last 6 months, only because he hasn't been playing as consistently as you would like. And so, as exciting as his prospects as a player are, it's like, well, if you're not available, then you're not available. So, but when he's on the court, I mean, he quarterfinaled this event last year. I remember this was probably 2017, I want to say, maybe 2016. I first saw Sebastian at an ITF event in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
wow,
I was there for some collegiate event, and actually Tori happened to be there at that event with one of his players, Trent Bride, who ended up playing at Georgia, and
okay,
Sebastian was there with Eric Nunez, I think, and they were training together, traveling together. So I was on the court with the four of them, two players, two coaches, and Trent Bride just kept on saying, like, every time Sebastian would do something, he would say, "Oh, that's that pro blood right there. That's that pro blood." Always talking about the
that's it.
genetics. But yeah, I mean, Sebi's smooth as silk, and I think the thing that he, and Ryan I'm not gonna say he's a friend of the pod, but I known Ryan from some years ago back in Austin, and Ryan's a very cerebral player as well,
Mm,
but he has really brought in the constraints of, like, what does Sebi do well and how does that match up, especially against a player like Carlos. And what I noticed was I've seen this tactic before
mm,
against Carlos, and I've seen
yeah,
it work against Carlos. And even when you go all the way back to the beginning of the year and we talked about, like, what is the evolution of tennis players, what is the next version of the best tennis player look like? It's like, well,
right,
he's going to have to be about as big as Zverev,
yeah,
but willing to go through people. It's
that's
effectively,
it.
if I bullet down what it looked like. And when you watch Carlos play against Sebi's just like, I'm not backing up. He's got the hands to handle a heavy ball on the
Yeah,
rise.
yeah.
And when you serve 12 aces and no defaults, that helps a lot too.
Wow, yeah, that's true. What a stat there. I when I was watching the match, I saw Alcaraz. It did feel like he was maybe a quarter step slow off of his serve. I think is he preoccupied with the way he's serving the form right now. I've been hearing things about him thinking it's in flux a bit. He's taking that Djokovic form, but
Sure.
the way Korda neutralized Alcaraz right after that serve, put him back.
Yeah.
That I think that was probably the key to it. You're saying the next evolution of Flair has to hit through. Yeah, absolutely. But you got to neutralize that guy so they don't have an angle. I feel that because if you hit a return to right off the deuce into the deuce court for Alcaraz, I mean that's a playground shot for him.
Right.
He could go anything he wants, drop shot, cross court, and then start stretching you and stuff like that. But I I love how Corder just constructed his points on there, but he's I know he just seems in a really good zone. So I I like him to I don't know. There's also a thing about Alcaraz playing Fonseca the previous round and having that rowdy crowd, and then
Right.
was and I've as I've said on this pod a lot, I feel Alcaraz in the crowd. There's a synchronicity there,
Sure. Yep.
and in my mind, was Alcaraz up for Corda? Uh, of course, but I do feel like there was a kind of he was trying to motivate himself to a level that he was at with Fonseca, but maybe couldn't reach it. So,
Yeah, he did come into the Fonseca match, like, we were some buddies and I were texting back and forth about, like, this is the worst second round match for both of them. Like,
mm,
obviously Fonseca is trying to build himself a career, right? He wants to, like, string together some events where he can get into the second week or get into the third, fourth round of these Masters pretty consistently. So you get
Yeah.
he's he's right outside of the seeding, and then he pulls Carlos in the first match, like or second match, pardon me. Okay, that's not ideal. But then for Carlos, it's like, well, you don't want to play the number 39 ranked player in the world in your very first match of a Masters 1000, especially one who comes with all this fanfare. But as opposed to that being a hindrance, it was perfect for him because he was ready to go. He was
Yeah.
very focused.
Same.
The atmosphere was perfect. I mean, yeah, that was a. I think that was while the match itself was probably inconsequential, like that
Mm.
moment will matter, I think, later on. But in this match,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a match you think like no one expects Sebastian Korda
No.
from what we've seen thus far to be able to
Right.
beat Carlos Alcaraz. But yet, when you look at his skill set and what he does well or what he can do well,
Mm.
tall player,
Yeah.
great hands, can use leverage to stay on top of Carlos and bully him a
Yes.
little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. It's
that's about right.
and hard chord too. I mean, I think a clay court with Alcaraz and Korda. I think Alcaraz would have a lot more time to do some different shots and disrupt Korda to a point where he gets into his own head or just confused. But overall, that was good. That was a match that I thought. Uh, Alcaraz will probably win, no doubt, in about 2 years. I when I watched Alcaraz today, I thought it was a delay on my side, but when I watched him today, I thought, yeah, dude, you're still young. You are still so young,
Oh,
and
so you're chalking that up a little bit to uh where he is in his career as well, like trying to finish out this part of the season and maybe having his eyes towards like, I don't need this so much.
yeah, yeah, I do think that, uh, and also I know I can imagine listeners are thinking, he's won a bunch of grand slams. You notice that, right?
Right,
He's
right,
he's
right,
he's
yeah.
he's at the peak, da 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 da. But at the same time, motivation is always the hardest thing to push up a mountain. I mean, you can't continuously do it in a way that you did in the past. It has to be reinvented, has to be recreated and made anew. And with Carlos, I think he has to find different ways of motivating himself, but that seems very difficult in a tennis season that's what, 11 months. And I don't with Corda after beating Fonseca with a rowdy crowd, how do you challenge yourself in a way that is healthy for your own mindset, but also uh, gets the result you want? So for him, it's an ongoing process. I think Tori may have brought up the effect of Ferrero, right? Not having Juan Carlos, but I don't know if it's that. I think it's more just for himself. He's on his own sojourn right now. So I think uh, Korda got him. He got him at a good place, but Korda played lights out, I felt. So uh, Korda can play lights out. He can play lights out almost all the time if he wants, and
That's
that's the thing
that
about his shots.
he's almost mercurial in that way. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
It is so utterly frustrating sometimes to watch. I watched Korda play Michael Zhang in the Australian Open, Zhang on that Cinderella run. And I thought, oh God, where Korda, I mean, you could destroy this guy right now, but there was just something holding him back, himself probably. And for him to be in that way and then just now beat Alcaraz shows you just how how fluctuating his talent is, I guess. But
yeah. I don't have it in front of me, but I know he was out for a good bit, and I maybe I think starting this year was him coming back somewhat in earnest. And I have this like working theory of like, okay, when a player comes back from injury or time off, they need. It's not a matter of how many tournaments they need; it's how many matches do they need, and
yeah,
it's about 10. 10 seems like the right amount of matches to get to get back to your more or less your former self, or looking and feeling somewhat comfortable and reliable. And I think he's about there right now,
yeah,
which is that's fantastic. But you also have to go back a couple years. Like, didn't he beat Medvedev in the Australian Open in the first round like 2 years ago?
Right, right.
Was that 2 years ago? Was
He's
it
he's got
2024?
right. I I think so, yes. But I know he's got quality wins all over. I mean, I think he's got that set of skills where I sound like Taken and Liam Neeson, but he's got that set of skills
He's
where
got a certain set of skills.
yeah, he's got that skill set that I I feel when he plays somebody who is everybody thinks, oh well, Korda, you're gonna lose to that guy. That's his best element is when he goes in there and he's like, I'm just gonna swing and uh, not worry about expectations or anything like that. And I think that's where Harrison comes in, and he's telling him, control what you can control. Don't get too high, don't get too low. I know that's maybe a common mentality, but I think for Korda right now, he's got to follow that to the T. I mean, especially now that he's beaten Alcaraz and everybody's watching him. I mean, just don't care about that stuff. I mean, just be in that middle zone for yourself. So he does seem like, I mean, those eyes of Korda, my God. I mean, it just he's the way he it's like that. It's not aloof, but he has this distance in his eyes when he plays. It just I've never seen that in another player. He doesn't remind me of anybody, and I hope he can think of himself as Sebastian Korda and not Peter Korda, number two,
Sure.
ranked Australian Open. I mean, that's great that there's that connection, but it's time for him to individualize, be himself, because he's a completely different human, of course.
And the game is like the game's always been there. Like the
Mm,
game is. I don't think the game's ever been in question. Um,
right.
the only thing that I personally questioned is like, I mean, you can't win matches from like your recovery bed. Like you got to stay healthy. So like I think that's still to be seen, right? Like will he stay
Uh,
healthy? We don't know, but it's one match. It's one match, and the match
of-
shows that on any given day, if you have the right game plan and you bring the right level, um, that you too can. I mean, you too can beat
you
Carlos
too.
Alcaraz,
Yeah,
or
that's
if you
right.
don't bring the right level, if you're
Yeah.
off a little bit, like as Carlos might have been not the best version of himself today,
Mm,
like someone 30 in the world will beat you too. Like so, I mean, not as bad as the Goffin situation last year,
right.
but I think Carlos played better. I also think that I'll reiterate: 12 aces, zero double faults, and he had the balls in his hands to
Yeah.
serve it out and beat out Alcaraz 3 and 4. Right,
That's
like
it.
so it was like that would have been a comprehensive beating,
Mm, mm.
as opposed to what ends up looking by scoreline as a heroic victory.
D-
Again, one match, these things happen.
What
I don't
what?
change my opinion about either player, quite honestly, but
Mm,
it was good. I don't want to see anyone running away from the tour. I
this is
want to
it.
see people yanking Carlos back. I want to see someone pulling center back. Like I don't think it's going to be Mute tomorrow night, but
Nah,
uh,
you're going to get some
yeah,
great shots. I mean, my God, Mute is just
it's gonna be
yeah.
fun. It's
I
gonna be fun.
I want to put an over under on how many underarm serves he's going to hit. No, just kidding.
It
No
could get
over under.
it could get cheeky. It could get
Uh,
cheeky. It's gonna have to. Like, I mean, I don't think Corton's gonna be able to just like take Cinder down from the baseline. So you're
yeah.
gonna have to try to do something else.
Yeah.
Would love to see some underhand serves. Would love to see some
Oh,
like
I
short
get.
slices out wide and come in behind it. Like, weird stuff.
I think he's gonna. That's what he's thinking when he's gonna go onto the court against center. He's thinking, "All right, this guy's gonna blast me out of the park." So I think I'm gonna muck it up a bit. I would think if I'm Mutet, I would say I need to give this guy something he's never seen before. But maybe, or maybe he just needs to. Who knows? Who knows what will happen on that? But
Who knows?
yeah,
Who knows?
yeah, yeah.
I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and
All right,
not talk about Carlos Alcaraz anymore or the Miami Open
sure.
because when this tournament ends, we will somewhere
Mm,
on this channel we will do a proper recap of the not necessarily just the event, but like take a pause and talk about where we are in tennis after a full quarter of the season has been completed. But I think what I would like to talk about is what you and I were texting about. Kind of we have these very if you are a regular visitor of this channel or patron of this show, you know that we do come at things from a very analytical, uh, almost I would say coaching first perspective. And then when Pat shows up, we go we go we go hard left into the space of, well, what if? And today's conversation is a little more around like, what I'm gonna say, like, when we're looking at how the game has been evolving, like at some point do we get to a point where this breaks? Like where does tennis break? Like
Mm,
if you've seen how the game has evolved, not just in the last 10 years, but we're talking in the last 50, 75 years of tennis
right.
to where we are now, thinking about, okay, well then if change is constant, where do we go from here?
Mm,
And you gave me a set of things to think about, and
yeah.
I it really made me first kind of think about, well, what do I love about tennis? What is
Mm,
what is tennis to me? And I think at the essence of the game,
mm,
it is like Agassi said, it's like boxing at 90 feet, right? It is
yeah.
the thing. We are battling against each other, and
Mm,
we are trying to find the slimmest of space, the slimmest amount of opportunity to get the ball to bounce twice on the other person's side before they touch it, right? And we do
mm,
this over and over and over and over, hundreds of points over the course of a match. But I think the essence of tennis is proving something to yourself and proving something to the other person
mm,
time and time again over the course of a, a,
yeah.
a match, point after point, game after game, set after set. And that is kind of the prism through which I thought of all the thoughts that you had. So I kick it back to you. What
Yeah.
what do you like? What do you love about tennis? What is the essence of tennis for you?
Well, yeah, I thought, thank you for and for entertaining those ridiculous questions I sent. But I let me give maybe some background before I answer that question. And
Okay.
just a couple weeks ago, I live in Japan. I'm in Japan right now. So there's this tennis museum here because in 1874, it's a Yamate tennis museum. It's really small. It's just one room, one big room with a bunch of equipment and some charts that document the evolution of the tennis racket and the ball and everything. And I went down there and for a few hours, and it made me think about tennis far more on a macro level.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something we think about tennis. We think usually open era is most of the people listening to this, right? Like 1968. That's where pros and amateurs could play it. That's what made it open. And but then this when I went to this museum, I kept thinking, oh yeah, that's why we say gut. You know, that's why we say gut, because it's sheep intestine, or it came from cow intestine or sheep. We don't think about these things. And then when we think about the racket, which you popped up here, this museum's telling me it comes from the Arabic which is raha. So it's, tennis, you could say, is almost over 1,000 years old. So
Sure.
yeah. So this museum just put me on this time loop, and I took a picture of this. This is a image of the evolution of how the racket developed, and they go from what would some people would just say is handball, but it goes. If you're looking at this image, it goes from the on the left side, the top down, and then you go back up, and then that's how it goes from each side.
Gotcha. Okay. So literally
Yeah,
the hand all the way, down that column, moving over
that's
to the next
right.
column. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it did make me think, if it made me think about other sports, about their own evolution. And you see that it's pretty crazy that for this for the racket, I remember playing when I was at my peak with a vocal, and I had a leather grip that
Yeah,
was maybe heavier than the racket itself. When I think about it, it just didn't really make much sense. But and now we have Wilson shifts. We have these rackets that are almost. It's not that they're hitting the shot for you at all. I'm not saying that. I know it takes a massive amount of skill to manipulate a ball and so forth. But it did make me think. Well, it made me reimagine something that I've always wanted, which is that the ATP put on a tournament that would have wooden rackets.
Like a wooden back classic version of like that baseball
Y-
does sometimes for college players, but
Right.
do it
Yeah.
with a wooden racket.
But completely commit to it, like to a point. Not you don't wouldn't have to wear the attire or anything like that from the back in the day or something like that, but just the racket itself, a wooden racket, and the ball could be maybe a little bit closer to back then as well. So I wondered, would I like tennis more if the racket technology had been stopped? And
Yeah,
that's where I maybe what I was talking about with the questions to you. So
yeah,
uh,
that's an interesting one. Like so, like technology is a if we removing that restraint, right? So or
mm,
let's we've if we were to take that off the table, let's
yeah,
say rackets hadn't come as far as they've come. I feel like tennis rackets. It's interesting because I'm gonna go past rackets in a second here, but
mm,
rackets and string I think have neutralized differences in size.
mm,
Right, smaller players now can do things that big players could do, but still be fast. Right,
right,
getting the
true,
ball to go a little. You can hit the ball bigger than your size, right?
mm,
With the advancements of technology, both the racket and the strings. But now we've kind of leveled that playing field there. It's the little guys can do things too. It's a
true,
great thing.
true,
But I wanted to go past like the technology piece, not just the rackets that are having the impact, but like you mentioned the balls.
mm,
We're talking about the courts, right? Courts have, the obviously the size of the court has not changed, but the way that each individual surface plays has changed a lot. Like
yeah,
that has also had an impact on our sport. But I go a little bit further, strength and conditioning has also had a major impact on the high end, the professional levels of the tours. So like that is also part of like the technology that has moved forward in that specific space. Also has an impact on how players are able to perform. And I also feel like are we getting to the like okay, if you are big, you're supposed to be not as mobile, right? Big people are not as mobile. Small people are not as tall, but they're much more mobile, right?
right,
But we've gotten to this point where because of the advancements in
yeah,
training, right,
yeah,
where big people 6'6" get to be mobile, and that is like that's the thing that I think makes tennis now very, very difficult when you add in the
yes,
other parts of like,
ab-
okay, these
no
guys are
doubt,
hitting with with these rackets that they can, really get moving through the air. The strings are extremely responsive. The court surfaces are kind of all neutralized. But again, go back to my point about the court size has not changed. So,
mm,
I am not 6 foot tall. So for me to get out and hit a forehand, it's going to take me, split, cross, one, open stance, the 3 steps. But
yeah,
like if I'm 6'4", that's 2 steps.
that's
You're not
it,
getting past that. That's a bigger pong piece, right?
that's
So
right, yeah,
like that is the part that not necessarily worries me, but that's the part that when I think about like
mm,
where do we go from here, I'm like maybe we should make the court bigger. Like this is getting
yeah.
bad.
That I You're bringing up so many thoughts. I'm trying to deliver them with some coherence. I was
I
playing
don't have
this one,
coherence around here, so
but I was playing this one guy, Alexander Grupp. I don't know where he is now or anything, but it was a tournament, and I was playing so good that for those few weeks, and then he's 6 foot. He was about 6'4", but I would just crush this forehand as hard as I thought I could, and then it's like he took two little steps over, and he's like, "Yeah, let's just knock that back, you know,
eh,
let's just let Patrick, just hit absolutely absurd speed forehands, which weren't, either they go in or not. I was just hitting into the middle of the court, just trying to have power. But he was just, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll just go right, go left, and I thought that's next gen in my back then. I thought this guy is the next generation, and then I think about Wembanyama in basketball, even when I'm watching him play and how
yeah,
he creates. I mean, the gravity that he creates, just how the court just becomes this sort of collapsing force around him, and tennis. it's inevitable that we're going to get a 7-foot serve bot soon, but who has the same sort of dexterity and agile quickness like a Medvedev, somebody who can be 5 inches taller and have this perfect technological racket style that he hits 150s, yet he can still drop you right off the next shot. So uh, that does feel like it's coming, and that worries me quite a bit, because you think about a player who's just even 6 foot is short. It feels at this point.
Carlos.
Yeah,
Like Carlos is 6 foot, and he can get bullied by
you
guys
get
who are 6'5".
right.
But I do think there is an upper limit to this though, right? Because even if you think about that person who is 6 or 7 foot tall, right?
Yeah,
The time it takes for you to, like, by the time you get to full extension and you actually make contact with that serve, the faster you hit it, if it is going to come back, you are then reducing your own time to land, collect yourself, and then hit another shot that's worth the damn. I do think at some point we start to hit diminishing returns with the power to size ratio.
I see. I see. Yeah. Uh, Perhaps, yeah. But at the
And like,
same time,
what does that look
yeah,
like? Like, what does agility look like for someone who is like, we look at basketball players with someone like Wembanyama, right? He is, hey, Wembanyama, or even
We'll call him
someone like,
Wemby, right?
yeah, Wemby, like someone like
Yeah,
Wemby, but even like somebody like John Isner, right? John was
yeah,
a pretty decent basketball player. I don't remember how tall he was. Was he 6'10"? But like
yeah.
he moved, like when we talk about like 6'10", 7 foot, 7'3" guys who move well,
Mm,
in parentheses, for their size, right? We're also comparing them to players who are all like 6'4", 6'5" in basketball in a lot of space,
right.
where they don't have to do things in like very rapid succession. It's all like, it still takes some time on a basketball court. Whereas in tennis,
Yeah,
there's no time.
true.
Now that person is a very, very big person filling up that box that we talked about. That court is not getting any bigger. There's no time. So I do
Yeah.
think that there is an upper limit for someone. I think it's like 6'6", to be both tall for our sport and still be able to be agile. I
Mm,
think Medvedev and Zverev are the two
Zverev.
examples of like, these guys are pretty like Medvedev specifically, pretty agile, like truly agile. But any taller than that, you start getting into like the Opelkas and even Korda. Korda's pretty tall too, so like he's still agile. But like you get
Right.
taller than that into the Opelkas and the
Pericard, I guess, too. I mean,
even
he's six
Pericard,
seven,
yeah,
but yeah, yeah.
exactly. Like he doesn't move like
Mm,
Medvedev does, if you put it that way.
right. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I'm still wondering about just the technology itself. I do. I'm not anti-tech for tennis. I don't want to. I don't want listeners to think, oh, Patrick just as he's being cantankerous and all. Just why can't we go back to wooden rackets or something? But I am thinking, would the points not be more? I want to say more dynamic. Would we not have to be more? Not almost experimental in the way we approach a point. Like the rallies would be ridiculously long at this point. Like if you're playing with technology that is the same on both sides. So I guess I'm going around, I'm orbiting around the same idea, but it, and I'm not trying to argue anything, but I'm just worried about tennis's future when we're talking how we're talking here. You know. So
Yeah. Okay. So that's fair. Maybe we move the conversation forward a little bit and we talk about
yeah.
tennis's future, right? Like
Mm, yeah.
you had a question around like, some of the, does tennis have room to grow,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
that was
Like,
yeah,
does tennis have,
yeah,
is there, do we have room to grow, or are we destined to kind of stay in this? I think the term you might have used is like club sport.
that's right.
I want you to give me, I
Yeah,
want you to give me a little more, on that one here, because I did go
for
down a bit
sure.
of a rabbit hole thinking about this, and I got to a place that I was happy with, and then I came back out and I was like, I don't know, I'm actually curious what the hell Pat was talking about, because I didn't really ask follow up.
About the one for the club sport.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right. So this is a big personal one for me, actually. When I was growing up, I didn't really have enough money to really join a club when I was a kid. Like really, it was the fees were insane around us, and
Sure.
so I would hit off a wall like a madman. I mean that if anybody asks me how did I develop my game, I would say, well, I hit off a wall for about 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, from like single digit age to about 12. That's why because I just love to hit shots as much as possible. And that's where my kind of ridiculous form kind of went into fruition, was through a wall. But it was, if the fees for the club were lower in that way. And then I thought about this again when I was at the museum in Japan, here.
Hmm.
And I thought, tennis history, it's kings and queens stuff, right? Shakespeare mentions tennis in 7 of his plays, and I keep thinking, is it because of its roots that it is this sort of restricted sport in a way? Is it doomed to have this hierarchical quality where you are, uh, you can I join that world? I mean, as long as I give an arm and a leg, then I can go join that world. And so when I think about when I say club sport, I think a club sport with you, in order to get into that club, requires such, not just expenses, but also, well, a little bit of privilege, I guess, in a way that you can get the best form possible. Because for me, tennis, if you don't start at a young age, can you become a great player? The greatest of players. And so that's where I was going with club sport. Was that, is that
Yeah,
that's yeah,
yeah. So, like, I mean, even going backwards here, like, yeah, can you become like tennis is very technical by nature, and I
yeah.
think that's
Oh
why,
yeah,
like, if you're going to become one of the great ones, I'm not saying you need to be playing, you know, international junior tournaments at age 8, but you definitely need to know how to play by that point in time. You need to learn
right.
the technique early, and there is a significant, barrier to entry there from a cost standpoint of
Yeah,
learning how to play tennis uh, technically with a technical proficiency that will allow you to do what you want to do on a tennis court. I think that's what technique allows you to do what you want to do
yeah,
consistently on a tennis court, right? And it's really it's an access and like economic constraint issue. But like if you think about exclusivity within sports, right? Golf being the probably one of the most exclusive sports, and then tennis versus something like basketball, which is very easy to get into. Like
yeah.
you got 10 people on a court,
Go play.
variations of that by
Yeah,
size, and um, the amount of players to per square foot of the playing surface, I
yeah.
think starts to show you how exclusive a sport is and how hard it is to get into. And if there's 2 tennis players on the tennis court, you're taking up a lot of space because it's not just the court that we need all the space around it as well.
This is
It
true.
becomes it is exclusive by nature. Like the
Yeah,
other, we can put the same amount of people, we can put 10 players, like 10 basketball players on a basketball court that is roughly the size of what you need for one tennis court.
right.
And and if you're playing pickup, like in the hour and a half it takes us to play a tennis match, how many pickup games, how many players could play
Mm,
basketball in
mm.
that same amount of time on that same court, right? It is inherently exclusive from the very structure of the game. Like you can't play tennis in
Wow.
the street with your friends. You have to go to a place that has been built for you to play tennis. Like, and if you don't have access to that, then you are not going to be playing tennis. And that is
Well put.
the I think tennis is where tennis wants to be, and that is especially here in the States, we continue to strive for equity and accessibility for all people
Yeah,
to be able to get into the sport. And the USTA wants to grow its membership base from whatever it is now, like 23 million to 30 million, something like that. And it's like,
yeah, yeah,
well, as the economic divide in this country keeps growing, it,
yeah.
throw tennis doesn't really seem to be the thing that's gonna,
Knock
for the
it
people who
down.
are.
Right.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I don't think this really isn't the sport for that.
Yeah.
But I also think there are some tennis is really hard to appreciate. Look at the juxtaposed to the other sports in this country that are very popular: the football, basketball, and even to a lesser extent these days, baseball. Maybe even going in that order.
Mm.
Tennis, when you look at the scoreboard for a football game, you can tell pretty clearly how close this game was. And especially in basketball, right? If it's 68-65, whew, that was a close game.
Yeah.
These two teams are pretty evenly matched. If it's 120-40, you can
Mm.
tell that this team is a lot better than this team.
Right.
But in a tennis match, like tennis is so nuanced that in a 6-4 match, there could be a difference of 3 points total won for the
Yeah.
winner versus the loser, and that's hard to conceptualize how someone can win a match 4-4. You call it fairly routine, yet the
Mm.
score was, I don't know, 12-8, 2-love.
Right.
Well,
True. True.
how is this guy so much better than that guy?
Yeah. Well done being an outsider, even though you have this massive knowledge of that was well done. How you put yourself out. Okay. What's this tennis thing about? I
I'm a
love
man of the
that.
people. I'm the
I
man of the
love that.
people.
But that is just this is a quick tangent. I mean, I think all of these have been tangents so far, but the
Welcome to the tangent.
yeah, uh, that's why I love the French Open so much. I still feel the French Open is my absolute favorite tournament. My wife who uh, she loves tennis. I mean, we've been married a long time, so she's just been hearing about it constantly. So now she knows about it, but we love the French Open because there is this idea that the server can be broken. There is a chance, right? Because that there's such a better chance to be broken on a clay court
Okay.
than on other surfaces. I feel,
Yes.
right?
Yes, it is
So
true.
that adds to unpredictability of all the points at French Open. And also, this is why I really love the French Open is the players are suffering and it's so clear. Like they are exhausted. You, so when I played on clay court, you can speak to this too. But when I'm playing on clay courts, and it's just 20-shot rally, I'm like, oh, I'm gassed. I am
Yeah.
so gassed, and I got this dirt all over me. And I just there's the visual suffering of people while playing on clay, especially for me, the French Open when I'm watching it is just that is unparalleled, and that I think creates access to new fans. I think whereas Wimbledon would, now am I arguing against my own self with Wimbledon's traditions and all? But with Wimbledon, it does feel a bit stiff, rigid, and like you said, there's an exclusivity to it, a little bit like golf's
Absolutely.
Masters, right? So
Yeah.
sorry.
So I want
Yeah.
to I want to dig into this a little bit. Probably not where you think I'm going to go. Fr-
All right.
French Open's really your favorite tournament?
I've decided that. Yeah, I think the French. Well, I mean, my favorite Grand Slam by far. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Okay,
Yeah.
that is fair. I
Yeah.
would. Okay. Okay.
Well,
So
yeah.
I I'm with you on all that clay court does for our sport. What it reveals of us as players.
Yeah.
You can't just rely going back to the how technology has sped up the game. Um, Clay inherently slows it back down to really bring in all of the elements of being a
Yes.
tennis
Yes.
player, not just
Yes.
power. It doesn't over index on power the way that Wimbledon traditionally, grass court traditionally does, or a fast hard court can. It requires you to think differently about how you construct points. It
Mm,
requires you to be in the utmost of physical condition. It
right.
requires technical proficiency because the points are so much longer. Um,
Absolutely.
there's a lot of running involved,
There's
right?
a lot. A lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. Free points don't come so free on clay. My only retort would be like my favorite version of a tennis tournament. If I had to think of like the elements that are my favorite of a tennis
Mm.
tournament, it is not 5-set tennis. That's one. It
Oh,
it has both. It is on clay court though. We're close. It has
okay.
both men and women, and you're getting all of the top players there. So best of 3 format on clay, men and women. It is, but it has to be the right clay court. So now we're getting down to like Madrid versus Rome, and
Okay.
it's Rome. It is Rome
I
for me. So
Rome.
we're close. We're
Yeah.
close here.
Abs-
We're
yeah.
close.
I,
But yeah, it's Rome for me.
that's one of my. That's in my top. It's in my top 5. I would say tournaments. I think for me, Madrid is pretty awesome, like you said. So, but yeah, you're making really good points because whereas it's best of 3, so there in that way the matches can be a bit more digestible, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but God, I mean, the stakes of the French Open. Maybe I guess French Open would be my favorite tournament, just because I mean, talk about the psychological stamina necessary for a 5-set match.
On clay. God
On
bless.
that's the thing. I mean, is that not the ultimate heavyweight mentality in tennis? I feel is like winning a 5-set. Like I think that's why the Alcaraz Center match that happened last year. That's why all of us were just. I mean, our minds were scrambled after that. And
Yeah,
the
I can't
French
even believe
Open.
we
Yeah,
actually. I haven't
yeah,
thought about that match in a little while, and I'm just like, when you bring it up, I go, I can't believe that happened. That was real. That was
right. Yeah.
that was crazy.
Yeah, and the fan reactions. I just watched it about a couple weeks ago. I think it was after I went to the museum and everything, and then I watched that, and I thought, whoa, that is tennis right there. I mean, that the fans just with those great seats that they had, watching Alcaraz slowly break down center to a point where you almost felt like center a gasket was leaking or something, where he was overheating, right? There was, but yeah, to me, for tennis, the suffering is, this sounds so rough, but the suffering is the art. The
It
suffering is the
that's
art.
I'm with
Yeah,
you. I'm with you.
yeah.
I've never been to Roland Garros. I'm going this year.
Whoa,
My wife and I are going. I think we've
that's
talked about this before,
fantastic.
but like, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
excited about it. Um, and yeah, we shall see. But like, it's interesting. Like when we talk about the we've been talking now for about 45 minutes, and everything we've talked about has been
yeah,
centered around singles.
yeah.
So
Ah, yes,
we never really talk about doubles. I would say I can count on one hand. I don't even need all 5 fingers to talk about
mm,
to count how many times we've talked about doubles on this podcast in the 100 some
right.
odd episodes that we've done. And I think it's because you asked me this, like, does doubles
Yeah.
have I'm going to call it like a product identity issue.
Mm,
And I think about doubles in a couple of different ways,
okay.
right? There's playing doubles versus watching doubles. And when you're watching doubles, there's men's doubles versus women's doubles, right?
Okay.
And so I feel like all the things that I talked about that I love in tennis, right, do mostly primarily speak to that one-on-one mano-a-mano version of tennis, and that applies to both men and women, right?
Mm,
Doubles is a game of I feel like repeated execution under a stressful environment on every single point.
mm,
Like you have to make first serves and you have to make returns on every single point. And then like the other person, if my partner makes first serve, I need to go make that cut off that first volley. Or
right.
if my partner makes that first return low cross court, I then need to put pressure on the net. Like every single ball, there is pressure on everyone to do something very
Mm,
specific, and you have to do it over and over and over. You have to execute.
right.
There's not a lot of trickery involved
Hmm.
in doubles. Now,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
that's from a playing standpoint, because I enjoy playing doubles. I haven't played much lately, but when I
Mm,
played in college, I enjoyed playing in college. Set a record or two in my day in college, played doubles,
you
but
did. You did.
that's a different podcast, not this
All right.
podcast.
Gotcha.
And no one will listen to that podcast. But watching doubles, I think it comes back to your point about technology. It's hard to really tease out the nuance of doubles
Mm,
when everyone is serving big, and then but a big serve doesn't always get rewarded because players can also rip returns.
true. True. Yeah. You're bringing up some really good stuff with doubles, and Uh, you're you're making a good point that I agree with about set combinations and doubles that
Yep.
they have to have. You hit that serve, you got to hit that return in this direction, and so forth. Although Shea Sue, she breaks all rules, but
Well, it's also on the women's side. Like there's
on the women's side,
power is a
right? Yeah,
little less of a factor, so there is some more. That's what I'm saying.
right.
Women's doubles
The
is actually a lot more fun to watch than men's doubles, in my opinion.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. 100% on that. This came up because I was watching Djokovic play with Sissipas, and
Hmm.
I think part of my argument always for doubles to be more meaningful was that, oh, we've got to get the top players to play. But then when I watched the top players, the top names, I guess, play, I actually realized no, that's not the issue at all, because they don't need doubles. They don't need it. Right? It's not. We already know Novak Djokovic. We know Tsitsipas. I mean, they've made the finals of the singles tournaments. That they've established their identities. Yeah, now they're playing together, but they're having a laugh a bit. It seems as if, oh, that was a great shot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's just like the stakes of doubles to me. I thought, wow. I mean, that is the problem. Is not so much uh, yeah, big names, but more the stakes. Where can doubles go? And you bring up a really good point about the technology. Could doubles have already reached that barrier where
Yeah,
we
I think that's
right?
yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good
Yeah,
point. That's probably where doubles has men's doubles is kind of broken. And there's
yeah,
another part about this doubles issue. Tennis is an entertainment product, right? The
yeah,
tennis that we're watching on television is an entertainment product, not the tennis we
mm,
play on the, that we go out and play, but tennis on television at the highest end is an entertainment product. And for that to be entertaining, we need that gladiator aspect. We need the best players with stakes. Best players with stakes
yes,
equals entertainment. When I'm
yes,
watching doubles and you're watching the best players, the Novak and
right,
Tsitsipas, but with no stakes,
yeah,
that's not very fun.
right,
If I'm watching high stakes doubles with two guys I don't know,
yeah,
and I know they're not the best players
yeah,
of tennis. We all know that doubles players are not the best players of tennis. If they were, they'd be playing singles. And if being the best doubles players was a completely different skill than being the best singles players, then they would also be compensated in the same way. But they are not
they're
because
not.
they are not, right? And that's the jig, right? That's the jig, is that we all know that we're not watching the best players, and
Right,
that is inherently the problem, I
there it
think, in
is.
the
Yep,
entertainment space.
right.
It's
So
also like why like players 200 in the world don't get the love they deserve. Like a guy who's 200, 250 in the world in singles is so good, so good,
I
and
know.
yet
Yeah.
they're not. It doesn't matter. They don't matter.
Like, Austin Krychek would stomp me, but utterly stomp me. No, like his skill level is so insane. But when we think about Austin Krychek playing doubles with, am I going to watch that if I'm at a tournament compared to, say, number 70 playing number 60 in a singles match? I'm probably going to go over to the singles match and see, oh, is that guy gonna, is he gonna be able to move his ranking up or something like that? You're making a really good point about how doubles has this paradoxical situation, this dilemma, right? Is Can doubles survive? It keeps getting chopped down. Like we've got no ad scoring going on in tournaments now, right? We have super tiebreakers instead of third sets, I mean, when that happened years ago, I thought, oh my God, just throw doubles off the schedule already. I mean, it's an exhibition, FL. I don't want that to happen. I like doubles, but is it just simply the fact that playing doubles with a friend is the most enjoyable way to experience doubles? Is to just play doubles with a friend against other friends in a social environment? Can doubles reach that stakes level? Can it be brought to an audience and have that gladiatorial, like you said, that gladiatorial flavor? Uh, I don't know. When Djokovic and Tsitsipas were playing together, right? Uh, who did they lose to? I think that I can't remember who they lost to actually, but I do remember that the teams beating those top players had stakes because their money is in doubles.
Right.
So
Right. As
I
opposed to what Djokovic and Tsitsipas might have got paid just to play the doubles,
that's it.
like by the tournament.
Right. The tournament's like, please make doubles relevant. Right. So,
Yeah,
uh,
and that, yeah,
hmm,
it's like that. I mean, I remember watching
hmm,
a doubles match at Miami a couple years ago, a night match, and the Tsitsipas brothers were playing together.
hmm.
Um, no, that's not right. Tsitsipas was playing with Feliciano Lopez.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's the tournament director at Madrid. Is that right? With the Madrid
I
event,
think so. Yeah. He is.
I think he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like it was packed. It was packed. Why?
Hmm.
Because Tsitsipas is playing. The
Right.
singles player, Tsitsipas, known for his singles, uh,
Yeah.
made 2 Grand Slam finals in singles,
Hmm.
beat Roger Federer in singles, attracts people to come watch him play doubles because of what he did in singles, not
Right.
necessarily
This is
the
it.
other way around. And I would even double down on your point about like what is the best version of doubles being
Hmm.
with friends. I think doubles is probably, for most of us playing tennis, is the best version of tennis actually,
Right.
because it's the one that we can we can best express who we are as tennis players because we don't have as much space to cover because of the way this technology has impacted our movement as aging tennis players.
That's
Um,
it. Yeah.
yeah, and I
I
think that's also why pickleball has taken off because it's taken doubles, killed the pace, made it smaller. And
right.
now anyone can play, and that's I always say pickleball is a tennis that you think you're going to be playing when you start playing tennis.
Well,
It's that.
very very quick pickleball tangent. That great way to bring that in. But that are I'm a rookie when it comes to pickleball. Are they're playing
Same.
with very similar technology? I think, right? I mean, the paddles, like like those rackets that they're hitting with. I don't think somebody has this advantage. This big. I mean, it feels very egalitarian pickleball. It just
Yes,
feels.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there are slight nuances in the paddles themselves.
Okay. Right.
I don't know enough to be corrected, but when I watch people play pickleball, like I see them play at the place that I play tennis indoors during the week, it's like, oh, no, it's all the same. It's all the same. The ball doesn't move that, whatever they call it, doesn't move that fast. So like that's
Right.
the
Right.
it slows down. And then there's also you can't go to certain parts of the court, and the court's
Hmm.
small. So
Yeah.
it gets,
Okay.
yeah, pickleball has its place. And I don't, let's
Well,
not, because
let me.
I'll get in trouble.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. I have two points. Yeah. So I did ask you one more question about like what needs to change about tennis in the next 10 years, and I will say that that question did come out of doubles to me. In my like I felt doubles was one of the things that needed to be addressed. I feel the Bryan brothers are like the will end up being the Babe Ruth of doubles. People will remember doubles, they'll think Bryan brothers just because of how I guess synchronous they were when they played together, and how, the chest bump and everything. Is that all of that
Yeah.
was so much fun to watch because how intense they were and how much they wanted doubles to matter. But that was one of my things about the next scene. Oh, and one very quick thing: when I was at that museum, one more thing about that museum was those old pictures. They weren't showing singles. When I say old pictures, I mean 1870s, 1880s. They showed
Right.
doubles. They were People were playing doubles, and it was a social sport in that way. So that goes back to like the idea that playing doubles just will perhaps always be a little bit more enjoyable than watching it, and especially with the crazy technology we have now, where people are blasting shots and right at people's faces at the net, which was always
Yeah,
my own phobia.
there's a league here called Alta. It's the Atlanta Lawn Tennis Association, and
Oh wow.
Alta is a doubles only league. It's spring and fall. It's same gender, so all men's teams and all women's teams, and
Hmm.
then in summer and winter we play mixed doubles. But it's five. It's 5 lines, and it's all levels.
Yeah.
From alpha number like C1, C2, C3, C4, all the way up to double A1, which is the highest level. You get a lot of ex-college D1 players and
Oh wow.
whatnot, but it's great. And it's a thing, like people have teams out of their neighborhoods, like their public parks, so many different levels. It's great. It's social, but it's also very competitive. Like you bring
Hmm.
there's snacks and drinks, and every Sunday, Saturday and Sunday in the fall and spring, it's everywhere. Alta's everywhere, and it's so much so that Alta is the second largest tennis organization in the world. Remember, from a membership standpoint, it's second to only the USTA, my friend.
Wow. I did not know.
It's only here in the greater Atlanta area, and it's all doubles. It's all
Hmm.
There's no singles. It's all doubles, and people love it. Yet
Hmm.
we don't have a professional tennis tournament in Atlanta anymore because people don't show up to watch it. They'd rather be out playing doubles than going to watch not the
Wow.
best.
That's
That's my
a
point.
that's a big one. Yeah.
As we move to the future, though, as we move to the
Yeah.
future, let's not talk about the past. Let's move to the future before we get out of here. What do you? I'm going to kick this right back to you. What do
Sure.
you think needs to be changed
Hmm.
with tennis, and what tennis hills are you willing to die on?
Well, I think tennis is apparently in a good spot. When we think about rivals, when we, of course, watching Alcaraz and Sinner, watching greatness, watching them push the boundaries of the game, those things are exciting to watch. But what hill do I want to die? I want to die on the one where uh, junk ballers or people who are hitting shots that we haven't seen before, but within the confines of the game. Uh, I I love how tennis brings out everyone's personality. You brought up boxing earlier. I
Hmm.
mean that's what Agassi talked about, and that is so what tennis is at its best level. No matter what kind of rackets we use or anything like that, or just tennis. Tennis has this beauty to bring out our own psychological selves in a way that we didn't know. I think I am a better person because I played tennis so many years than if I had not played it at all. Or if I, instead of playing video games for 10 years or something like that type of thing. To me, tennis made me a better person. So that has to, I think that still remains to this point. I don't know if I'm answering this question, but how can it change? Like, what do I want to change about tennis? Badly, I want more personalities to get into tennis who are not so gifted the chance to get into the sport at an early age. Like, I want people from all different backgrounds to have more of an equal opportunity to get into it. So to me, the access is what has to change about tennis. Uh, but I know that that's almost a pipe dream because, like we've talked about in this pod, about form, about technique that has to be set in a person very early. The Williams
Hmm.
sisters, their story. King Richard is probably the only tennis film I've ever really liked. I've hated almost all movies that bring up tennis. I don't know why. It just always feels
It's
unnatural.
we're too close to it. We're too
Yeah, I
close to it.
I think so. But the fact that they opted out of junior tournaments, that they played on public courts a lot of the time, and it's just we need hundreds more of those stories so that the game can be a bit more enriched and feel less like, oh, okay, I didn't start when I was 4. It's over. That might
Okay,
be part of it. So,
that's fair.
how
That's fair.
about on your side? I'll push it
What
back
needs to
on
be
you.
changed? I didn't get as philosophical as you did, but
So,
I don't want to let that go. In that, I tennis is a from a very young age we step onto the court, and you close the gate behind you, and you leave your parents and your friends, and you got to go deal with that other person and yourself. It's just the two of you.
there it
And
is.
I think we all have accounts of crying on the tennis court during matches while we're kids,
Yep.
and it's hard, right? But the lessons to be learned in life, I think we learn them first on the tennis court, right?
Yeah.
We grew
Yeah.
up on the tennis court. We matured on the tennis court, and I think that
Mm.
is a beautiful, beautiful gift. Like, so whatever changes about tennis, don't change tennis. Tennis is great the way it is. It's not perfect, but no sport is, but
Right.
it's perfect for me.
Mm.
So no one changed tennis. Now, how we sell tennis is
Mm.
where I'm willing to take some liberties here, right?
Sure.
If we go back to the idea that at the highest level, tennis is an entertainment product. And there's a couple things that we have to do. One is easy. Can we get rid of these damn let serves? Like, nobody needs them. Like,
Mm.
let's get weird. Like, you see what happens like in a college doubles match when a let serve happens because they play lets in college. It's
Yep.
on like Donkey Kong. You see one sit up and everyone is moving. Like the guy that was at the net is now not at the net. He is
Right.
scrambling to protect his family line, and like it's a whole it brings an element of WTF to tennis that like lets are dumb. Lets are so dumb, get rid of them. That's
Yeah.
easy, right?
I love it. I love
The
it. I'm
thing
with
that
you on
I'm
that.
the thing that I'm most bullish about changing is at non-grand slams, and maybe even let's take maybe the Masters 1000. We take this out. I think we should have compass or spider or round robin draws in
Ooh.
professional tennis tournaments.
Whoa. Whoa.
Everyone benefits. Everyone benefits. There should be 3 opportunities
All right.
for sure to see Carlos Alcaraz in a tournament, or Arina Sabalenka, or Coco Gauff, or Yannick Sinner.
Mm.
They should play a minimum of 3 matches, right? I think there should be pool play, or maybe it's double elimination, or a spider draw where you're going moving different directions, all that kind of stuff. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of tennis at this level.
Mm.
We talked about the players who are 60 and 70 in the world playing against each other.
Yeah.
I would actually argue that if that versus a top level doubles match is happening, I think the doubles match is going to be more crowded. Because if you're 60 or 70 in the world,
Yeah.
because of how little extra attention there is for the fan, if you're not top 30,
Mm.
maybe even top 20, no one's paying attention. That doesn't mean you're not fantastic. It
Right.
just means as from an entertainment standpoint, it's hard to, because of tennis's nuance, it's hard to brand that many people and
Mm.
then make that many players matter. We cannot sustain that.
True.
So what is a fix? Let's have the best players playing all the time. Like full sellout. Like just let's just call it what it is. There's money for everyone. There's money to be made for everybody.
Yeah.
But let's have the best players. Let's have the people who are carrying the brand just carry the brand. Like just let them do it.
I I love that. I had not heard that before, and that is great. I one thing I've always wanted was to have some tournaments, not all, but some tournaments not have seeds. If we
Just
don't,
put them in a hat, pull it out.
well, I think the draw should be a bit more of a dramatic experience. Like some, like
Ooh.
almost like in the NBA lottery, when they're picking draft picks and all that, draft slots. Like if you have a draw for let's say the Australian Open goes no seeds, right? They're like, and you got the ping pong balls and everything or something like that. And all right, we've got, first round, we've got Sinner against Tommy Paul. And there's Tommy Paul just, whoa. I don't know if that would be, am I talking myself out of it while I bring it up here? I don't know, but
Well, then you are then not going to get the best two. You will probably not get the best two players at the end of the tournament. I think
Well, well, I think
that's that's one of the
right.
beautiful things about tennis.
That that's true, right? I think it's my own affinity for the early rounds, which I've told you about. Like I love
Sure.
early
Yeah.
rounds. I love those small tournaments where you get these matchups. But uh, well, I love yours though. I mean, a compass. Wow, yeah, true.
Or even just
Yeah,
like we do in the year-end championships, right? Like okay,
right.
let's call it that. Let's say there's 64 players. Let's break it out into groups, right?
Yeah,
You play your round robin, and then the top player from each group comes out into a 16-person draw, and we play it out. Fine. We got what we were looking for. We got a championship at the end. You got to see the top players 3 times at minimum,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then maybe you can see them a few more times. So 3 rounds plus 16 quarters semis, 16 quarter semis, finals. Okay, maybe we shorten it by a little bit. Like we start with we get 8 groups and the top 8 come out.
Okay,
Okay, fine. Now I got 3 matches plus 3 more. Boom. There's your Masters 1000. Call it.
that has to happen. Let's make that
It's an
happen. Let's find a way
it's
to make that happen.
it's an idea. But now
Yeah,
what would you like, what needs to be protected? Like as far as what needs to change, I'll go first and I'll let you finish.
yeah.
I might have gone back and forth on this, but tennis, because of the long history that you've talked about and the way that history truly does matter in our sport and the way that
Mhm.
the reference we have for players based on what they did has a lot to do with the context in which they did it. I'm talking specifically about the Grand Slams on the men's side, best of 5 format. We have to keep it.
Yes.
We have to keep it. And the women do not need to play it. They don't want to play it. We don't need more. If I've said this before in this podcast, if
Mm,
one had to be changed, like men playing 3 in the Grand Slams or women playing 5, let the men play 3, right?
mm,
I don't need more 5-set tennis, but what we have is the value of winning a Grand Slam.
mm.
Have you ever played a best out of 5-set tennis match? Have you ever tried?
Yes, I have tried. I have tried. I've played. I did in this one tournament in in Switzerland I played once, and then not that it was a pro level tournament, but yeah, I played an exhibition, and it didn't really. But I played 2 in a row. I played
Okay.
one, and then the next day, my legs were just gelatin at that point. I just I didn't know where I was going on the second one, but
All right.
yeah, I did try it, but it's
A buddy of mine a couple years ago, we played. He's a very good player. And we go back and forth trading sets, but we played. We set out to play a best out of 5-set match on clay. Right?
that I
We
haven't
booked the
done.
court.
Yeah,
We booked the court 7 p.m. and the park closed at 10. I'll go ahead and give you the cat. We did not finish and something very very weird happened. Like all my life, I've been playing, either 1 set or best out of 3 sets, right? Which is
mm,
it's effectively we are conditioned to do that.
right.
I won the first 2 sets and then got down a break in the 3rd set, and mentally
Yeah.
I just had to downshift. I
Mm,
was like, I don't I can't. And that was very very interesting because there's never really time in a 2 out of 3-set match to downshift, right? I almost just let the set go. I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna get this one. It's fine.
ah,
I need to save my energy and come out firing in the 4th set. So if he's not gonna
right.
give me a service game back, I'm not pushing it. And that is a different way of thinking.
Yeah.
It's a different form
Do
of
you
managing
feel
your
like?
body.
But do you feel like that's a drawback to the tennis experience is to have that downshift, or do you?
I don't judge it any way. I just think it is playing best out of 5, having to win 7 best out of 5-set matches over the course of 2 weeks, like having
Mm,
to be in it for 2 weeks
yeah.
and be the victor 7 times in those specific circumstances is unique.
Mm,
Not that it's bad, not that it's good, it is unique. And I think if you change any of that, it becomes not a grand slam. A grand slam is, on the men's side, is these things. Is the
right.
culmination to hoist that Wimbledon trophy with the Rolex on. Like you gotta you had to do that thing that many before you had to do, which is manage yourself as a human being in the real world for 2 weeks and win 7 best out of 5 set matches in circumstances where you have to make calculations about when to push and when to not push. And that is unique. So
That
let that
is.
be unique. Let it
Yeah.
be.
Seven matches, 5 sets, 35 sets in 2 weeks.
Could be. Yeah.
I
Could be
mean,
somewhere.
that max length, right?
Yeah.
We must keep that. To me, that for a player, that has to be the Everest, right? I mean, we have to keep that as Everest.
Yes.
Uh,
We
so
can't change the height of Everest.
no, no, we
If you
cannot.
change any of that, the Wimbledon one in 2030 is different than the Wimbledon one in 2024. They're different, and they cannot. They can. It's as cut as dry as the open era versus non-open era. Like,
But
it's
uh,
over. This version of tennis is done if we change anything about the Grand Slam.
but that is why I do want to push yet again for women to play 5 sets in a Grand Slam. I do think
Oh God,
they
nobody wants
should.
it. Nobody wants it.
Nobody
The women
wants.
don't.
We
The
we don't
women.
know
The
what.
women. They've asked the
Sure.
women players. None of them want it. I don't. If they don't want it, I don't
They're
want it.
they're asking the wrong people because we asking the wrong people because I know the what do you mean they're asking the players, but they're asking first strike people. They're asking the athletes who are, they hit that serve, they hit that first shot, point over. The Ostapenkos, the Sabalenkas, Rybakina even. I mean, they want that. The match could be over in 45 minutes with them. 45 minutes.
Yeah, but if the match is over in 45 minutes, like 1-1, do we
Yeah.
need more? Do I need a third set of that? Do I? I don't. That's
I
pretty
th-
it's pretty compulsory, I think.
but I think what you were saying earlier, you said you won the first 2 sets and then you went down a break, right? I don't know how, torturous those first 2 sets were for you, but I'm thinking if Sabalenko or especially Ostapenko, sorry, if she has a downshift in mentality, suddenly the whole script is changed, right? And then we see that. I want to see women play longer matches so that we can understand them a bit more. That's where I was going. So,
That's a
all
good
right.
point. I
Yeah.
don't just no. That's a
Yeah.
good point. Like, it's the great what if. Like,
Yeah.
okay, but would we still have the same players being the best players if the Grand Slams were different than the rest of the tournaments for the women? I think that is a nice, that's an intriguing thought experiment, and
Well,
I think
I
I
think
think
that
we should. Go ahead.
yeah. Well, I think the WTA needs to literally sit down with the top 200, 250 players and say, look, let's hash this out and let's vote. Let's have a vote to see if we want to change the history of women's tennis so that the time that you spend on the court could equal that of the time that men spend on the court. Of course, there are scheduling concerns and things of that nature, but is it not worth a test run again? Because this did happen in the past in history. There were 5 sets, but uh, I just think women need to really consider this so that it doesn't. I went to a tournament the other about last year, and I went to a match, and it was 1-2, and it was about 47 or 50 minutes the match, and I said, "Oh, it's over. Okay, all right." So I just spent 2 hours commute to get to this tournament to watch this match, that was shorter than my own commute.
Yeah.
So to me, they're not really giving themselves a chance. The awareness level is not there. So that's where I'm at with that. But
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will continue to ponder. You continue to ponder, and we will also let the listeners continue to ponder. But I think that's a good place for us to stop.
all right.
Another fantastic episode of the Best of Three. Please like, subscribe, all those things that I never remind people to do. Hit the bell, notification icons, all that kind of stuff. Anyways, I'm Alvin. Patrick, Thank you as always. Best of
Thank
three.
you.
We are out.